Shalom Aleichem, good morning, Chodesh Tov, Chadesh, Yomeinu Kekedem. Mitzvah Hashem will speak about a little in Yened de Yoima, Parashas Noach, and we'll see how much time allows us to expand to other places as well. Leah Libi Bat Luba Bat Biti. Mitzvah Hashem Le'ilui Nishmas Aisha Chashuva. Mitzvah Hashem, her son, will deliver and will continues to deliver, Mitzvah Hashem, elevation in the upper worlds because of all the great things that he's involved with. The two things still connected to the Yamim Noraim, which we just passed. During the month of Elul, Rosh Hashanah, Aseret Yemei Tshuva, Yom Kippur, we all feel, hopefully, inspired. We try to change, do tshuva, and many times 2 days after Yom Kippur, downhill, and we find ourselves exactly where we were before, or chas v'sholom, even worse. So I want to tell you an unbelievable maaseh. There's a Hasidic boy, his name is Chesky Tuenheim, 14-year-old boy, the Tzadiku Chasid, and a couple months ago he went to Tel HaShomer Hospital to visit the wounded soldiers. This Chesky, 14-year-old, his size is about yay high, not too much, I'm not exaggerating, sitting on a very sophisticated wheelchair, connected to a million different things. He goes to the soldiers, many of them top officers, and he says to them, you know, I was born with 50 fractures in my ribs. 50. If I would have listened to the doctors, wouldn't be here today. Not shayach to continue to live with 50 fractures in one's ribs. And if, the doctor said, if you will somehow live, your life will be a worn, long maseches of misery and pain. And Chesky told him, I'm here today, giving you divrei chizuk. You know what happened to me? When I decided not to listen to the doctors, I decided every person who was born into this world has a tafkid. That's the reason we are here. I knew, Chazal tell us that we all have different tafkidim. But I said to myself, it must be that my tafkid is very special, unique than all other people because I was created in a very unique way. It must be that my tafkid is very different and very important, and I must make sure to fulfill my potential. So I just have to look and try to find what is that tafkid that for its purpose I was born. And my mission in life was not to look to the right and not to look to the left and not to look at others and to be jealous of what they have and what I don't have. Because I was born differently, different than anyone else. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants something special for me. In other words, HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't create me in this way. Just so happened. It's a mistake, things happen. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted me to do things that others cannot do. And this Chesky continues speaking to the soldiers, and they're just amazed. And he tells them, and many of them don't have a leg, and don't have, they amputated their arm. And he tells the soldiers, you can also adopt this type of attitude to life. And you can go very, very far by dealing with this new condition, this new situation that you're in, which is not your fault. But this is now your new tafkid. And I have no doubt, he says to them, that if you will make sure just to look straight, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from me, and not to look to the right, to the left, what don't I have, certain things that others do, you will be very happy. And these soldiers, some of them really top officers in elite units, very tough guys, all crying, all shedding their tears. They were encouraged by it. But why? What is it in what Chesky says to these soldiers that really opened up their heart? It could be that that's what really we are missing when we do tshuva. We keep looking at others and we compare. We compare their tafkidim, we compare their accomplishments, we compare what their skills or abilities, things that maybe we think that we don't have. And we prioritize and try to give, unfortunately, too much weight to the sins that we were involved in the past year, instead of prioritizing and focusing on that which HaKadosh Baruch Hu really expects of us, is just to try and sanctify His name in this world by fulfilling our specific role. And as soon as a person decides, nobody's waiting for him, nobody's trying to compare, it's just me and Ribono Shel Olam. The path for a continuous tshuva, not a tshuva of 40 days, Rosh Chodesh Elul till Yom Kippur, and then all down. Then lichora, the path should be a little easier. We get confused very quickly because our role, the path that we have to take, is not clear to us. Nobody came with a manual and told us, this is what you have to do. It's individual. So instead of going in our path, we compare it to other people's paths. And then we say that we're not as good, not as strong, not as successful as potentially they are, until Yetzer Hara comes and tries to convince us that tshuva is not shaykh to us bichlal. But if we will focus in our role in this world, a person will be able to convince himself, yes, I may have done one or two things wrong. Maybe more than one or two. And I got to do tshuva. But the target is always in front of him, what he has to do. It could be that ignoring our personal role is one of the biggest obstacles in tshuva. So in this new year, again, we were all inspired, first 10 days of the year. But the trick is not to allow it to all fall down and wait until next Elul. Emet Hashem, one clear path, moving up, closer to Ribono Shel Olam on a regular basis. And that is job number one. Last week when we came to Simchas Torah, we came to the shul. Last Simchas Torah, last week, was a day that I think many people would have preferred to stay in bed. Roll into the blanket and not to think about anything that happened the previous Simchas Torah. I think a lot of people will prefer not to come to shul, not even to think about anything, just to run away from reality. And when I came to shul and I saw so many people coming in, pouring into the shul to be connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it gave me a lot of chizuk, a lot of encouragement. And for some reason, the words from Tehillim Perek Chaf, Va'anachnu kamnu v'nisoidet, kept reappearing in front of my eyes. Va'anachnu kamnu v'nisoidet. We rise, we rally, and we gain strength. Va'anachnu kamnu v'nisoidet. They come with their arms, and we come with Hashem, Ribono Shel Olam. And I don't know why, but these letters kept jumping into my eyes, and I started counting them, and it's 857 in Gematria. And I said to myself, okay, fine, David HaMelech, 857, how do I apply it? When do I apply? We rise and we gain strength. It says, oh, pashut, very pashut. The name of this war is Charavot Barzel.
What is it?
Charavot Barzel, iron swords. Bacharavos Barzel, that is 857. David HaMelech is saying, when should you apply? We should rise and gain strength. Bacharavot Barzel, because that's 857 as well. Let's jump to Parshas Noach.
I have to say,
Baruch atah Adonai Melech Olam Shekol Yom Bidvaroi.
Amen. You all heard what I said during Shabbat. This is the beginning of the Lady Shabbos year. In my house, that went on. I told you, it was always packed. Couldn't get into the house. We had a choice to make. Do we put the covers over, or do we hear what the message was? You go forward.
Exactly. And you are our role model.
I know. I'm the role model.
Kadosh Baruch Hu testifies on Noach that he is a Tzadik, Tamim, Bedoiroisav. And we spoke about it last year, a few different interpretations of what it means. Rashi says, some of our rabbis say he was the greatest Tzadik ever. If in his time he was a tzaddik, how much more so if he would be in a generation full of tzaddikim, it would be easier to move even higher. And some say, no, in his generation, all wickeds around, not a big deal to be a tzaddik. But if he was in the generation of Avraham Avinu, he wouldn't be counted, lo nechshav leklum. So we already asked last year, how is it possible? Why should you be darshan lignai when it's easier and possible to be doirish l'shevach. And more than that, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself says that Tzadik, says, nah, that's not really what HaKadosh Baruch Hu means. Why say that? So I don't remember how many different interpretations we had, 4 or 5, but one more thing. Reb Cheskel Mikuzmir said, one who's really a tzaddik tamim, always has a position. Always. Look around. It's just unbelievable how it works. And people will always look to find all kinds of blemishes. So the fact that some people are darshan him l'shevach, praise, that's pashut. Of course, he was a tzaddik tamim. But from the fact that people also look to darshan him tegnai, that's a proof that in fact he was a tzaddik tamim. Because by tzaddik tamim there's always people who would, that doesn't still, in other words, if you see somebody that people say negative things about him, that doesn't guarantee they're tzaddik. First you have to find those people who say positive things. And then when you find the opposition, you know there's a big potential this guy, in fact, is tzaddik tamim.
My question, we say this, and there are others in the Torah that we don't have any opposition around Din, but nobody has a genai. So what should we say there?
Ramban, Parshas Lech Lecha. Chet gadol chata Avraham Avinu. Listen to our language. Moshe Rabbeinu, Gemara in Sanhedrin. Everybody in Klal Yisrael, everybody suspected Moshe Rabbeinu of being with their wives. People suspected Moshe Rabbeinu of stealing their money that was donated to the Mishkan and taking it to the fanciest restaurants. Pilei ploim. Tzadikim mistama have a position. Riddle of the week. We have a bunch of riddles. Parshas Noach is a little before Matan Torah, right? A chumash and a half before Matan Torah. And yet, what 3 halachos that appear in Shulchan Aruch are learned from Parshas Noach? 3 halachos lemaise in Shulchan Aruch, but we learn it from Parshas Noach, even though it's given before Matan Torah. 3 different halachos. So, what do you say? Shivisi Hashem lenegdi sami. What does that mean? Beginning of Shulchan Aruch or Chaim, Simin Aleph. Beginning of Shulchan Aruch. Shivisi Hashem lenegdi tamid. Kodesh Baruch Hu should be in front of me. Always be thinking about a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Says Shulchan Aruch, Ze klal godol b'Torah uvemalos hatzadikim asher holchim lifnei haElokim. This is the main principle for the tzadikim who walk with the Kodesh Baruch Hu. And he continues, it's not the same the way that you handle yourselves when you're home by yourself or when you're outside in public. Where do we learn it? Says the Gaon Mivina from Noach. As the pasuk says, Esa Elokim hishalech Noach, and that's the language Shulchan Aruch used. That tzadikim sheholchim lifnei Elokim. That's halacha number 1. 2 more. 2 more halachos in Parshas Noach. Something to do with Kriyat Shema. Noach and Kriyat Shema, what's the connection? Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim Simin Ayin Hey Seif Dalet, we learn you're not allowed to say Kriyat Shema in front of an erva, even of a goy. What's the chiddush here? Eino Yehudi L'choira is compared to a donkey. Shene'emar Avraham Avinu told us, Shvu lachem po. Not don't say ima chamor, rather am hadoim elechamor zechamor. So what's the problem? And yet the Gemara learns Bachos daf chafei amud beis Shabbos daf kuf nun amud aleph. The pasuk in our parsha says ve'ervas avihem lo irau. They didn't see ervas Noach, and Noach is a yid. No, he's a ben Noach. He has the status of a ben Noach. Even though the Gemara calls it an erva, you see from here, this is the source, that you cannot say Kriyat Shema in front of an erva, even of a Eino Yehudi. And another thing related to Kriyat Shema, a minor, katan, that reaches the age that others, when they eat, if they produce certain things that will cause an unpleasant smell, you cannot read Kriyat Shema there. So when he reaches the age that he can eat a kazais of one of the 5 grains within the time frame of achilas pras, you stay away from his tzora or from mei raglaim. And the sources from Yerushalmi. What's the connection to Parshas Noach? Yerushalmi in Brachos Perek Gimel Halacha, he says, the pasuk in our parsha says, Ra mine urav. Mine urav is missing a vav in the Torah. It says mine arav. Why? משעה שהוא ננער ויוצא לעולם. מכאן אמרו, from here, this is the source, קטן שיכול לאכול כזייס דגן, פורשים מצואסו וממי רגליו, דלת עמוס לקריאס שמע. So we have 3 different halachos learned in Shulchan Aruch from Parshas Noach.
What's the wording from?
The pasuk in the Parsha says Ra min ne'urav, and the ne'urav is missing a vav. This is the source that Gemara learns that we stay away from his tzoya and meiraglayim.
How do we see from the word?
It's not min ne'urav, it's min ne'arav misha shenin'ar latses. Nin'ar doesn't need a vav. That alludes to that word. Noach builds a teva. How many rooms are in the teva? 3 levels. How many rooms? You have a nice house, 3 levels. You only have 1 room in each level? 3 floors. How many rooms total in Tevas Noach?
Never told us.
What's that?
Never told us.
But if I'm asking, maybe somebody did tell us. How many rooms? 5. Can I get 5 חום שתויה? Do you think the zebra wants to live with the lion?
Kosher animal,
I don't know kosher animal. It doesn't say in the entrance of the room and the door, kosher entrance only. It doesn't say that. How many rooms total in the teva? How many madorim? 4? Madorim is miut rabbi mishnayim times 2. I'm sorry, what did you say?
No, I was going to say 3.
3. It's 3 levels.
No, I know, but I also...
In each level, 3 rooms. Shneema, where'd you get it from?
No, this is men, women, animals.
And what about the that's the 3 levels. That's why you need 3 levels. And we need also for garbage, you need also for storage. Where do you store everything? All the food.
I heard one opinion says that there were only 187 animals in the teva.
Only.
And so maybe
7 of each. Kosher 1 and 2 of, where'd you get this 187 from?
giraffes.
613.
613. Can I get 613 mitzvahs? Chiddush, you have a source? I'll accept it with a source. Chiddush. Bereishis Rabbah, Parsha Lamed Aleph, Ois Yud Aleph, 2 opinions. Rabbi Yehuda says only 360 rooms. Rabbi Nechemia says no, only 900 rooms. They learn it from Sukkim. 900 rooms in Tevas Noach. I don't know if it's divided 300, 300, 300. 900 total, and according to Rabbi Yehuda, only 360. By the way, how many Tevas did Noach build? 1. Everybody agrees? You think I would ask it if it would be so pashut? How many arks did Noach build? 1. You insist. I insist the answer is no.
you made an example and I made
Artificial one? Fake news for what?
to learn how to make it first.
You have a source of that? Big Chiddush.
The Goyim would burn it down, would destroy it.
So how many did he build?
He had to keep on.
How many did he build? Ultimately, it starts floating. The flood comes. How many Tevas are there? You're saying 1. I say no? Big Chiddush. What's that? Not 300, and not 360, and not 900. A little less than that. Og Melech HaBashan is standing, is jumping, is sitting. I'm not sure exactly how he's comfortable. He's a giant, don't know how, but he's there on top of the teva. How many tevis did he build?
How many, did these tevas last through the flood?
Sure,
Or just how many did he build?
sure. Of course, for the flood.
Tevas you're talking about, they last.
We always thought that he built 1. Kam Rabotenu Harishonim. Rokeach Toisvos HaShalem. I saw it in the Chumash called Kol Esin Shebatorah. And this Chumash brings all the S in the Torah. Every time it says the word S, there's 3,600 S in the Torah. Always comes to do something. What does S do? It comes to merabe, to include, to add, to increase. So what does it mean that Noach builds et hateva, the teva? It means this is more than 1. How many did he build? Says the Rokeach. And Toisvos HaShalem, he built another one. A small one for storage for the vegetables, for the animals. He tied it up to the big one, to the big teva that we all know, and there was another one connected to it, and there are 2 tevas. The Rokeach suggests, when it says Esa teva, maybe it refers to the daf, to the shelf that Og Melech HaBashan sat on, or for the re'em, for that big gigantic animal, Zvachim Kuf Yud Gimel, that was outside the teva, and there was a little hole in the teva for the re'em to put its nose there so it can breathe, have normal air, and get some food. Or es a teva, the other teva that he built for vegetable storage for the animals, and Tosis HaShalom says the same thing. Big Chiddush. Not connected.
How did they transfer it? I mean, it was in a different teva. How did it get from one place to the other place?
First of all, I wasn't there, I can't tell you. I didn't see the video either. I'm assuming they're connected. They're tied up, they're connected. You open the window, you open the other teva windows, you take it. But I don't know, I wasn't there. We just passed the Yamim Tovim. Mistama, some people drank a lot of wine. Chol HaMoed, every single day you drink wine. When you drink wine, you say, L'chaim. Why? Why do you say L'chaim? You don't say L'chaim when you drink orange juice or tomato juice. But when you drink wine, you gotta say L'chaim. Why? Where did it come? Where does it come from? From Noach. What happened to Noach?
He discovered the world was dead, so he had a l'chaim.
No, it's amazing. You kill someone, it's a l'chaim.
What about Noach?
He drank wine and it was a disaster.
It was a disaster. Oh, that's the first source. The Likuti Apart is similar to what you said, not exactly. Noach comes out, the first thing that he does, he drinks wine. We know the rest. Tragedy. And therefore we say this should be lechaim and not for a good life, and not for chas v'sholom what happened to Noach. Great. A different reason is what you're saying. Daf Mem Gimel Amud Aleph in Sanhedrin we learn that one who gets killed, executed, in Misas Bezdin, they give him wine. Why? Kedei shelo titaref datoy. If he's aware of where he's going to, he's going to go crazy. We want to prevent that. It's a pasuk in Mishlei. Tnu sheichar la'oived v'yayin lemarei nefesh. So you give wine to the person who's about to be executed. So when we drink, we say this should not be because of what's going to happen next, chas v'shalom, to us. This should be lechaim and chas v'shalom, not lemisa. That's another opinion. Das zekeri mibale atoisus. They say. Last week, Pasha Adam Arishon. There's three opinions in the Gemara Daf Meim in Brachos what he drank. Reb Meir's opinion is it was wine, and what happened as a result of drinking this wine. Death comes to the world. He won't live forever. He was supposed to live forever. When we drink, we say this should be to life, lechaim, and not chas v'sholom, like the result of what Adam Harishon drank. Another reason, Eiluvin daf samechei, Sanhedrin daf ayin, we learn, why was the wine created in the world? Lo nivra yain va'olam, ela lenichum avelim. So when we drink, we say this should be lechaim, and not like the wine that we drink, that we give avelim to try and give them nechama. But a big chiddush. Tzavas harivash. Rivash is one of the Rishonim. And Derech Pikudecha brings him. He says, words, the expression goes, words can heal and words can kill. He actually says words can extend your life or words can kill you. Why? Last week's parsha, the pasuk says, Vayi Adam lenefesh chaya, and the Onkelos says, leruach memalela, which means our main essence is
Speaking soul.
That's our birth, that's our chiyus, that's our energy, that's our main, that's how we're different than the animals. So he says when a person speaks good words, it can extend his life. That's the main essence of his life. And if Khalila goes to the other direction, so the opposite of extension of one's life, as the pasuk says in Shir HaShirim, nafshi yatsa bedabro. The wrong words can make your neshama leave. Great. Says the Yitav Lev, since drinking wine can cause a person to speak a little more than usual, nichnas yain, so the person starts talking, doesn't even know, not even aware of what he's saying. Mimele, it can shorten one's life. So therefore, when we drink, we say, no, this should be lechaim. Only good things can come out of it. Hashem, good words, mimele, an extension of life, and not chalila, the opposite. Yitav Lev, based on the Tzavas HaRivash brought in Derech Pikudecha. Tzavas HaRivash is one of the Rishonim. Who's the Yitav Lev? The original Satmar, the father or the father-in-law of the Satmar Rebbe.
During Vedas, you're not supposed to drink wine.
During an oinen is not allowed to drink wine. Lo nivra yain ba'olam, the wine was only created in the world in order to be menachem avelim. It's the Gemara, the language of the Gemara. An avil is allowed to drink wine. an oinen before burial, he is not allowed to. An Avil is allowed to. Sanhedrin Daf Kuf Ches Amud Beis, the Gemara says.
Even though there's an interruption in between?
Interruption of what?
In other words, I had to wait until after.
A person who's an oinen is not allowed to drink wine, period, until burial. After burial, the Gemara Sanhedrin says, Noach Tzadik used to rebuke his nation, the people around him, and say very harsh things. This goes against what we normally understand, that Noach did not rebuke his generation and he just built a teva for himself. But the Gemara clearly says he did rebuke. I guess maybe not as much as he could have, should have. There is a taina Noach. Sanhedrin, Kuf Ches Amud Beis, the whole Ma'aser there. The Gemara says, Haya omer lahem dvarim kashim kalapidim, very harsh words.
Maybe that was a problem.
No, the Navi Ishaya calls the flood Mei Noach. It's an accusation because you didn't rebuke the generation, Mimele didn't do tshuva, it's you caused the flood. Very harsh. But it does say that he did rebuke them. And they would disgrace him. Vayum mevazin oiso ve'omrim lo Zaken, you old man. How old was he? 500 when he starts, 420 years. Zaken, teva zolam alecha. Why do you need this? I don't understand this. What does it mean that they called him Zaken? You old man. When did Zikna come to the world? Avram Avinu. One page before the Gemara says that until the time of Avram Avinu, there was no such thing as appearing as an old man. And therefore, when somebody would see Avram Avinu, he would think, oh, Yitzchak, how are you? And when they saw Yitzchak, they saw, oh, Avram, how are you? Because they looked the same. Even though Avram Avinu was 100 years old, when Yitzchak was born, there should be a difference of, 100-year-old doesn't look like a 5-year-old. But people used to get confused because there was no such concept as Zikna. You didn't look old. Until the time of Avram Avinu was before Noach or after Noach? They did spend 58 years together. They did spend 58. But that means when Noach is Noach years old, Noach 58, when he is 58 years old, Avram Avinu dies. So when Noach, which is the time that he starts... When Noach is born, Avram Avinu is still around. And he sees him for 58 years. When Noach dies at 58, when Noach is 58 years old, Avram Avinu dies. That means when Noach, did I say the other way around? When Noach, which is the old age that he starts building the teva, he's 500 and 520 and 550, Avram Avinu is long gone.
Is it gone?
Exactly the opposite. It's all that wine that we drank before. Look what it can do to you. I don't even like wine. Grape juice, look what it does to you. Again, Noach and Avram Avinu lived for 58 years together. That means when Avram Avinu was 58 years old, Noach died. Great. Avram Avinu still doesn't have Yitzchak until another 42 years. I don't know exactly at what point Avram Avinu appears like an old man, but it's long after Noach is gone. So when Noach is around, there's no such concept as a person looking as an old person. So what does that mean that people in generation came to Noach and says, Zaken, you old man, what are you doing? There was no such concept as Zikna.
We see with Sarah
She said about herself.
She didn't age. That was a bracha. Other people must have aged.
They must have aged that their bodies didn't function maybe the way a 15-year-old bodies function. But there was no appearance of an old man. The Gemara says, Lo hayta zikna ba'olam. There was no appearance of old age. So why did they call him Zaken?
One can be old without looking old. So old he was.
That's what Abraham Kanievsky answered me.
Sorry?
Tap yourself on the shoulder because you're thinking like Abraham Kanievsky. That's what he answered me. He wrote to me, Zaken b'shanim shehikiruhu. Everybody knew that he is 5 years. They looked at Tudat Zehut. They saw the guy's 5. You're so old. You don't look old, but you are old. Great.
He had no kids.
What's that?
He didn't have children.
And therefore?
So it's like it's what's called an eight zaken that doesn't give peers. Meaning they said, but Adoni zaken, that he's already too old.
The Gemara in Yerushalmi Chagiga Perek Aleph Aloch Beis, Bavli Chagiga Daf Tesvav Amud Beis, says, Tov Reishis Davar Me'achrisoy. Reb Meir explains, sometimes the beginning of the matter is not so good, but the latter part should be good. In others, if you have kids in the beginning, when you're young, it doesn't work. Have kids later on when you're a little older. So even when you're old, you should have kids.
Maybe they thought that he's like Zaken and he's incapable of having kids. That he
Maybe.
went so
You
long.
don't need to go there. They saw to that Zehut, 500 years, you're ancient. So they called him Zaken. But, I saw in a sefer called Mincha Ktana Anatoya. Young man put it out for his bar mitzvah when he was 13 years old. Lives on 4 Nachasnir. And he writes, the Gemara Kiddushin Daf Lamed Beis says, En Zaken Ela Mishkan HaChochma. Zaken is a Chocham. Which means they looked at him and said, Noach, Zaken, which means, this is wisdom. Is this Chochma? What are you doing? You're building a teva for no good reason. What are you doing? In other words, they're referring to his age. They're referring to as if his acquired wisdom. That's not wisdom, and that's what they were saying. How many kids did Noach have? Names? You think I would ask this question if it was so simple?
4.
Oh! What's the name of the fourth? Yoniko. And that's where it ends? 4?
Did he have girls?
Mistama. Chumash Kol Esin Shebatorah brings that anytime it says Es Shem, Es Sham, Es Yafis, Es Lerabos, they're twin. They had a girl twin, a baby girl, born with each one of them. But let's talk about boys. So we're saying 3 we all know of, Shem, Chav, and Yafis. Rav Yativ is adding another 4th kid. Yoniko is his name. And I'm saying, does it stop there? Let's see. Moishav Skenim ala Torah. It carries a lot of weight. Who's a Moishav Skenim? They write, Noach, Zivuk Sheni, a second wife, he marries the mother of Oig. Oig Melech HaBashan. And she got pregnant before the flood, and she delivered in the Teva, Og's little brother, who's not so little, whose name is Sichon. So Sichon is Noach's son. Chiddush. Moshe Avskeni bring another opinion that no, Noach is not the father of Sichon. What happened is the father of Oig raped Naamah, Noach's wife, and she delivered in the ark, Mr. Sichon. So comes out that Sichon is a brother to the 3, to Shem, Chav, and Yafes, but not from the father. Only from Naamah, the mother. Great. This is not according to Gemara Nida Samech Aleph, that Oig and Sichon are brothers, but not from Noach or his wife. Fine. Sefer Seder HaDoires, Sefer Yuchsin, and Yalkut Shimoni bring that after the Mabul, Noach had boys and girls, not just one, and his 4th son's name is Yoniko, and he was very, very smart, especially in math and geometry, and he taught him to the entire world. And he taught Nimrod how to rule over Bnei Cham. So according to this, Noach had a 4th son whose name is Yoniko, but according to our count, it's already his 5th son, according to the first opinion, Moshe Avskeni. Yoniko.
And that was after the flood.
After the flood, he had a 4th son. He had many boys and girls. Doesn't say exactly how many in their names, but at least we know about the 4th, whose name is Yoniko. The only problem is, the Abarbanel rejects this opinion because it's not mentioned in the Torah. So according to the Abarbanel, we're back to 4 without Yoniko, but with Sichon, according to the first opinion of Moshe Avskeni Torah. Without the Moshe Avskeni or the second opinion of Moshe Avskeni, it's Noach's stepson, it's from his wife, it's not from him. I'm sorry? And therefore? That's the only opinion, that's so? Oh, so that works well together with the other opinion. So it could be that he has only 4, could be that he only have 5, could be that he has many, many, many more, and could be that he only has 3. What's the Taina Anoyach? We said before he didn't rebuke the people in his generation, but listen to a language of the Zoya. I'm reading to you, translated to Hebrew. Omar Rebbe Yeshua. He asked his Rebbe, Mara Anoyach shelo bikesh rachamim al doira. Not because he didn't rebuke them, because he didn't daven for them. Why didn't he ask rachamim for people in his generation? Amar lo, so he answered him, because he didn't even think that he himself is going to be able to escape this terrible flood. He says, the pasuk says, Otcha raiti tzadik lefanai bador hazeh. It should have said, Otcha raiti tzadik lefanai. What does it mean, the extra 2 words here? In this generation. It should just say, I saw that you had tzaddik. Come to my teva and I'll save you. But the pasuk says bador hazeh, which means according to this dog, you're a tzaddik. Noach didn't really think that he's going to make it because he didn't view himself as a tzaddik. So he says, I got to ask Yachamim for myself. Forget about the other people. It's not true that I'm making it. That's why he didn't. Amar Rabbi Eliezer. However, im kol zeh haya lo levakesh rachamim al ha'olam lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He should have asked the Kodesh Baruch Hu to exercise mercy upon the world. Why? Ki noyach lo LaKadosh Baruch Hu mi she'omer toiv al barav. HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves when you're melamed zchus. Where'd you get it from? Minayin malnu davar zeh. How do we know this? From Yoash, from Gidon ben Yoash. Gidon was not a tzaddik, nor was he a son of a tzaddik. But because he said good things in Klal Yisrael, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to him, Lech bechochacha zeh, go with this strength of yours. Ve'hoshata et Yisrael from the hands of Midian. What does bekoichacha zeh? What does this mean with this koyach? Those good words that you spoke about my son. Now you'll have koyach to save them from the hands of Midian. And Amar Rabbi Lazar, listen to harsh language. Amar Rabbi Lazar, Afal pi, even though you may have a tzaddik godol mikol ha'olam. Pyramid, all the tzaddikim are here. This tzaddik, number one, sits by himself, greater than anyone else in the world. Im yoimar ra lifnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if he will say negative things, or sitna al Yisrael, says anything bad, al Klal Yisrael, his punishment will be worse than anybody else. Onsho yoisa godol mikulam. How do you know? Because we don't find anyone a greater tzaddik than Eliyahu Hanavi. And because he said harsh things on Klal Yisrael, he says, Klal Yisrael, he says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, they left your covenant. They broke your mizbeach. They killed your Nevi'im with a sword. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was extremely upset. What does it mean he was extremely upset? The pasuk says, here, go take a charcoal cake. Ugas retzafim. What is retzafim? HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, this is appropriate for somebody who speaks negative about my people. Go. Instead of I have a nice chocolate cake, you're going to have a charcoal cake. Amar Rabbi Eliezer, the pasuk over there says, "Vayelech bekoach ha'achila harahi 40 yom ve40 laila ad ha'elokim choreva." From what he ate, the charcoal cake, he was able to go for 40 days. Ask Rabbi Eliezer, what? Burnt cake like that can give you koyach to walk for 40 days and 40 nights? How is that possible? He says, no, that's not what he meant. It took him to see how Moshe Rabbeinu conducted himself during those 40 days and 40 nights with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He was melamed zchus. It was a punishment to Eliyahu. Come see how it really is supposed to be done. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, lo zaz misham Eliyahu. Eliyahu accepted on himself to always say positive things on Klal Yisrael. And anyone who does a zchus, anyone who does a mitzvah, anyone who does something good, Eliyahu immediately goes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and says, look what this guy did. He changed 180 degrees. As the pasuk says, "Vayikatev sefer zikaron lefanav." That's the sefer Eliyahu Hanavi writes from the Schusim of Klal Yisrael. The two brings, I think in Reish Tzadites Noachai, that every Motzei Shabbos, Eliyahu Hanavi sits and writes down the Schuyos of Klal Yisrael. That's why there's a minhag Motzei Shabbos to sing Eliyahu Hanavi and all the different songs about Eliyahu Hanavi, because this is his time and our time together. He is now writing our Schusim to try and hasten the Bias Goel Tzedek. Amar Rabbi Yehuda ben Pazi, so what was the punishment of Noach? Noach didn't say such good things about the people of generation. He didn't down for them. What was the punishment? Ay. Al shelo hisparel al doire, because he didn't punish for his generation. Yatsa min hateva chiger beraglav. He is limping because the lion bit him. It's not because he was late. Yes, that's technically what happened. He was late to give him his lunch, but that's not the reason, because he didn't daven the people of generation. V'shachav v'nisbaza. We said before, he became drunk and he was very, very disgraced. And his son made as if fun of him. Ve'asalo ma she'asa, depends on the two interpretations that you said before, Al-Vadia, whether it's says so or he did the other thing. Why is it? All these things together. Because he didn't daven for his generation. Maybe this is the source for Reb Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev. Maybe. The generation Dora Aflaga. What were they really trying to do? Building a big tower. What's the Indian? What's the plan? Fight Hashem. Says the pasuk, Vayomu Hava Nivne Lanu Ir. Why can't you say Hava Nivne Ir? What's the word Lanu? Umigdal V'roisho Bashamayim, a big tower all the way to the heavens. V'naase Lanu Shem. Make a big name for ourselves. Gemara Sanhedrin, Kuf Tes Amud Aleph says, V'na'aseh lanu shem, let's make a name for ourselves. Rabbi Nassan says all of them intended for Avodah Zarah. It was all Avodah Zarah. How do you know? Because it says, V'na'aseh lanu shem, let's make a name for ourselves. And regarding Avodah Zarah, the Pasuk says, V'shem Elohim acherim lo tazkiru, shem b'Avodah Zarah, shem by this generation, mimele. The idea is the same. They tried to make for themselves Avodah Zarah. The Sephono says, what was their real intention? What were they thinking of doing? This was the advice of the ministers back there. They wanted to crown Nimrod to be the king over the entire humanity. They will make a tower, make a name for themselves, Naaseh Shem, Avodah Zarah, that will be in this tower. And this way, the entire world will be speaking. Did you hear about this great tower? Yeah, over there, big tower. Everybody will be speaking about it. Everybody will come there. It will be considered the greatest Avodah Zarah. People will bow down, and Nimrod will be our king. This is what the Sephono says. That's what the Gemara says. And I want to know, where does it say this in the Torah? I think perhaps the Torah alludes to it twice in this pasuk. The pasuk says, "Vayomu hava nivne lanu ir." What's lanu in Gematria? Lamed is 30, 50, 86. And what's Elokim with a hey? Elo, Aleph, Lamed, and Hey, and Yud Mem, 86. However, nivne lanu ir. Let's make us gods. Let's make ourselves, in other words, Avodah Zarah. And that's why they repeat themselves. V'na'aseh lanu shem. Let's make a big name for ourselves. What's our name? Avodah Zarah, Elohim. They wanted to replace Elohim Chaim, Elohim Acherim, Chas v'Sholom, and to turn themselves into Elohim. A little in Yad Yoima. Yemach Shemam v'Zichram, terrorists come into a shul, and they shot many bullets, and it penetrated the bima multiple times. The bima looks, oof.
Chicago. When was this?
Last year. Simchas Torah.
Oh, over here.
The question is, the Gabbaim want to know, should they go quick and fix the bima, or there's an Indian to leave it as is, Zeichet, to remember what happened here, to awaken everybody to tshuva, everybody who comes here, to see the great miracles of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. How do we look at this? It's a shul. A shul has to be nice, as much as we can. Go see the Bel Shul in Yerushalayim. Shuls have to be nice. Lefayer u leromim es beis Elokeinu. Or, Zecher, keep it as is. Abba Yisai Dayani Mumchim. What do you say?
Yofilach is there.
And therefore, Sukkah Nun Beis, Nun Vav. And therefore?
Leave it.
Leave it. What's the Yofi here?
Leave it where Moisei Nefesh.
Everybody agrees? You have a source? That's a Mizbech. Talk about the Bima and the Shul.
Left the window where they shot the window in Varno. They left the window, I'm not sure, broken.
I'm talking about the Bima. Bima, you're going to read Sefer Torah on it.
The Keri Van Veu.
That's the Keri Van Veu. You leave it with a puncture, do all the kinds of holes. Go fix it.
I'd say you can keep that. You can keep that outside and display that for people to get inspired. But I think that
Bima outside. Bima is in the middle of the shul. We only have one. It's a very expensive one from Italy.
I'm saying, well, you're using it, so
So
I don't know. We want the shul to be
a nice, a beautiful place. So you don't care about the Zecher.
I care. So
Okay.
put that outside in the showcase.
Take a picture and put it outside.
People will see it. That's the inspiration. Yeah.
They're not going to see if you fix
That
it.
one. No, you're not gonna fix it. You can keep it. You don't need to get rid of it.
So you don't have to build. You don't have to fix it.
In the shul, you should put something new and.
They only punctured the bima. Do I fix the bima or not?
It's about fixing it. Okay.
Fixing the bima.
You shouldn't fix it.
Shouldn't fix it. Keep it as Zecher to inspire people.
Bikui Pachim. Bikui Pachim. The Anshe Korach.
Yeah.
They died.
There's a Kodesh Baruch Hu gives you an instruction over there.
But they took that and they put it on.
Moshe didn't agree. It's a Chiddush of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu overrides Moshe. Without HaKadosh Baruch Hu's instruction here, we wouldn't know this. Because Moshe says exactly the opposite. You want to take this, you want to bring it into the Mizbeach, into the Beis Mikdash. Zvachim Samech Beis Amud Aleph, the Gemara says, Oiso Hayom, the day that the Tzaduki, Kohen Gadol, was menasech mayim on his feet, as opposed to what he's really supposed to do, as the Mishnah says in Maseches Sukkah. What happened? Nifgema keren hamizbeach. One of the corners of the mizbeach was broken. Why? Because everybody threw at him. They were throwing him. What did they do? They took a bowl of melach, took some salt, and they plugged the hole in the corner of the mizbeach. Not because it's kosher to serve like this with a mizbeach, just shouldn't look pagum. It's not nice. It's a mizbeach. What's the connection to our bima? Because the Gaon Mivilna says, why do you do a kafos around the bima? Because the bima is like the mizbeach. Our bima in the shul corresponds to the mizbeach. You see from here that lichora you have to fix it quickly, but maybe not. Why? Mizbeach, it becomes disqualified, and you can't serve, you can't bring korbanos there when it's not intact. That's why you have to go quick. The bima, what's the problem to read on the table, even though there's some holes at the bottom? More than that, maybe there's an inyan to keep the holes in the bima. Why? Unbelievable Sefer Chasidim, and that's Rabbi Yehuda HaChosid 1,000 years ago. Simen Taf Mem Tes, I'm reading to you a language of Sefer Chasidim. Bayit shenehergu bo al kiddush Hashem, a house that somebody was killed in the hands of Goyim just because he's Jewish. And there's blood on the walls, on the wall around, on the wall surrounding the house, on the wall itself. And Baal HaBayis comes to paint his house. Don't paint it. Leave the blood there as a remembrance. Shneimar, pasuk from Iyov. Eretz al techasi dami. Don't cover this blood. He brings another pasuk from Yechezkel that seems to suggest the same thing. Lehalos chema. This is cause the Kodesh Baruch Hu to show his wrath. And listen to Allah in Sefer Chasidim. Kol zman she'ein hadam mechuse, as long as the blood not covered, HaKodesh Baruch Hu is noikem. HaKodesh Baruch Hu is going to take revenge. Uchshe mechuse, but when the blood is covered, eino memaher linkom. HaKodesh Baruch Hu takes his time. No rush.
According to this, the Zakah, when they come out.
No, they have a mitzvah to bury the dead, to take anything that, we're talking about humans, you got to take everything and bury it. But here we're saying blood that's on the wall. There's no way to scrape it off. You can't to paint it. You shouldn't paint it. It causes the Kodesh Baruch Hu to revenge.
What someone to live in a house?
What's that?
Someone wants to live in a house.
Good. Not pleasant to see the blood of Kiddush Hashem is going to cause the Kodesh Baruch Hu to come and take revenge against all the goyim who did this. It's gewaldig.
It's very depressing.
Depressing. What about a tattoo made by the Nazis? Yemach Shemam. Do you need to remove it or no? A person has a number here. The Nazim gave it to him. Should we remove it or not? You're saying no.
No.
Minchas Chinuch, Musach HaShabbos Lamed Hey writes, if a person has a tattoo, the Aveira is done when a person creates the tattoo. 2 seconds later, when the person has it, it's not like tzitzis. Tzitzis, every single second that you wear tzitzis, mitzvah. Every single second that you are circumcised, mitzvah. But when a person is walking around with that tattoo, he doesn't have an Aveira. The Aveira is only for the time that he did it. And yet, Minchas Chinuch says, try to remove it if you can. The Minchas Solis explains over there, when you remove it, you remove the zikaron of the Aveira. And then you'll be able to do a complete tshuva for the Aveira that you did. But that's not shayach because he didn't do an Aveira. It's the Nasim Yemach Shemam who did it to them. Not shayach. Shaul Tshuvas Mimma Amakim. Rav Ephraim Oshri was in the Holocaust, was in the Kovna ghetto. He was a rabbi there and he was asked horrific shaylas. And he wrote for himself in little pieces of paper the questions and his answers, and he buried them in different places in the ghetto. And he always promised himself, if I'll somehow get out of here, I'll come back to all these places that I buried these pieces of paper and I'll write a sefer. He was able to, Baruch Hashem, and he wrote 5 chalakim of Shalos Tshuvas Mimma Amakim, from the depth. Horrific shalos that he's asked there. So one of the things that he deals with, then he moved to the States, he was a Rav in the Lower East Side in New York.
What was his name?
Rabbi Ephraim Oshri. So one of the questions that he deals with is with women who had these tattoos, and they're asking him, should we remove it or not? He says, no! This is a symbol of Gvura. This is a symbol of honor. That the Nazim Yemach Shemam wanted to disgrace those women. He brings the pasuk, V'doy resh damim oisam zachar, lo yishachach tza'akas hanavim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu remembers. And this is a symbol of honor to the ladies and to our nation. And b'korov v'yimirtzeh Hashem harninu goyim amo ki dam avadav yikom v'nakam yashiv letzara v'yimirtzeh Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take revenge. He says, don't remove it. Rabbi Silver used to instruct those who asked him after the Holocaust should remove it. He says, no, keep it, and with that you mekayim the ma'aseh mitzvah of zchiras ma'aseh Amalek. And that's in where Amalek. You mekayim zachor es asher asa lecha Amalek. Chiddush. Yalkut Shimoni in Parshas Matos. Remez, easy to remember. Tafshin Pei Hey. That's our year. The Yalkut Shimoni says, Bo re, come and see how many tzaddikim, their blood has been spilled, and they weren't even buried. Because the Einam Yehudim did it. What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu do? HaKadosh Baruch Hu takes from the blood of every person that was ever killed, just because he is Jewish, and he puts a little on his royal garment. And when he is going to come and judge the nations, Yadin Bagoim Male Geviois, when he's going to come to judge all the nations, Yadin Bagoim, how? With a royal garment, Male Geviois, or the remembrance of a Gevia. Every person that was killed is going to be there. To that Zehut, a picture, a little blood, and that's how he's going to come to judge the Goyim. Look what you did to my sons. As the Pasuk says, the Yalkut Shimoni brings, Im lo dam saneta vedam yirdefecha. You hated blood, blood will pursue you. A Pasuk from Yechezkel. Rashi over there explains two pirushim. What does that mean? Blood will pursue you because you hated blood. Either because Esav didn't want to serve in Beis HaMikdash, that's why he sold the Bechoret to Yaakov, and Beis HaMikdash is a lot of blood of korbanos. You didn't like blood, so now blood will pursue you. Your brother will pursue you. Or Esav hated his brother, who's his own Basav Adam. He's his blood relative. It's his brother. So now, blood will pursue you. Your brother will pursue you. So maybe the same thing we should apply to the Bima. Keep it as a remembrance to cause HaKadosh Baruch Hu's wrath to come and to avenge the Goyim. But, lechoira, we should make a big chiluk here. Shul has to be the nicest place ever. Lefire uleroimem is Beis Elokeinu. So we have to fix it immediately. And what we said before, Sefer Hasidim, that's talking about the blood. The blood of those people who were killed. We don't have a source to say that holes of bullets also are the same thing. So lechoira, we should say, go and fix the shul immediately. Lichoyer, if it's blood, maybe you should leave it. Yeah, it's different than one's house, as Sefer Hasidim discussed, but at least we have a source. We're switching from Mashiv HaRuach, Morid HaTal, Mashiv HaRuach, Morid HaGeshem. Just a few weeks ago, we still said Morid HaTal, right? There was a siren, one of the cities up north. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ata Rav LeHoshia, Morid HaTil. Instead of saying HaTal, he said Morid HaTil. What's a til? A missile. A missile, a rocket. He was so startled by the siren, instead of Morid HaTal, he says Morid HaTil. Is the Yotzei Shmones or not? He never said Morid HaTal. He said a hefsek. It's not a hefsek. How do we look at this?
They don't say.
Chutz La'aretz Ashkenazim don't say Morid HaTal. Sfardim do say. But nobody says Morid HaTil. Why are you throwing a missile inside my Shmoneh? You want to say a stock market also? That's what he meant. Remove this deal. But Shmoneh instituted by Anshe Knesset HaGdolah never said the word missile inside. You inserted missile. Does it disqualify a Shmoneh or not? Is it a hefsek?
Yes.
Yes.
We did.
Why is that?
Because the language is Morid HaTal. So, but
don't create a new Shmoneh. Don't create a new Shmoneh.
Right.
We all agree?
He did not correct himself.
What's that?
He did not correct himself.
No, he never said Morid HaTal. He said Morid HaTil, which is very close.
It's not Parashah Masrei.
That's to fix something.
So you said and finished the Shmoneh.
What's that?
He finished the Shmoneh having said Morid HaTil.
Yeah. The letters Hatal are there. He just added one letter. Don't look at it as a new word. He added Yud. And you're so bothered by one little tiny little half of it. It's a Yud.
But the sound is different.
The sound is 100% different. But some people pronounce things aloud very differently. What's
It is the Chayz on the Tefillah.
the Rosh Shmoneh is no good.
Yeah.
And why are you passing like that?
Because we did not use the Nosach of the Chazal.
You created a new Shmoneh. There's no missiles in Shmoneh. Everybody agrees? It depends. It depends if it happened in the winter or in the summer. Why? If it happened in the winter, that not saying morid atal is me'akev even b'di'evet, because you're chayav to say in the winter morid geshem, or at least morid atal. The Taz learned it because just like the tal never stops, the geshem, they both give bracha to the world. So at least said morid atal, and you didn't. You said nothing. Not morid geshem, not morid atal. So even b'di'evet it's me'akev, and therefore he's going to have to repeat. But if this happened in the summer, if you don't say anything, like many Ashkenazim in Chutz La'aretz, that's fine. And why is it that you say morid geshem? It's a siman klala if you say in the summer, and therefore you have to repeat. So here, it's not a siman klala. You're saying, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please remove all missiles. Morid hatil. Mimele, you will not have to repeat. And more than that, when you're saying morid hatil, in the time of a siren, that's a tefillah deoraisa. It's a tefillah be'ez Sarah. It can't be that a tefillah deoraisa will be me'akev a tefillah derabbanon. The whole Shmoneh says derabbanon. So you want to tell me a tefillah deoraisa, which you're mechuyev to say right now, is gonna not be good for disqualified tefillah derabbanon? It's not mistaber. And therefore, in the summer it shouldn't be a problem. In the winter it will be a problem.
So that means in Mishnah of Shmoneh, at any point there's something, a siren or something, one can add a bracha like he wants.
We're not saying one can, one should. We're saying b'di'evet, if this happened, lemaise what he did is that tefillah deoraisa is mechuyev be'es tzara.
So only b'di'evet.
B'di'evet, we should stick to the nosach that Anshe Knesset Gdolei instituted for us. But in the summer, b'di'evet shouldn't be a problem because lemaise he didn't say morid tal, but which is okay. Many people lechatchila don't say it in Chutz La'aretz, and that's fine. It's not me'akev.
Well, the other teretz would cancel the first one, because if we're saying that tefillah deoraisa is definitely cannot be Ravana, then also in summer, and then in the winter it should be the same, right? So
yeah, but in the winter it's like taking away one bracha that you decided not to say. You have an obligation in the winter to say something, either morid geshem or morid atal. In the summer you don't have that obligation. Lechatchila you can say you can ignore both.
The obligation is the Ravana.
The obligation in the winter is this, yeah, but your whole tefillah is built on the fact that you're saying everything. In the summer, you don't have that obligation. So you said the whole tefillah as they told you. You have a bonus if you say morid atal.
But now I have new status. I have my
In the summer, if you say morid atal, you get a bonus. But even without it, you're good. So you're good. You didn't do anything. You want to say it's a hefsek? It's not a hefsek, because it's tefillah deoraisa, not mechuyev ba. So in the summer, we don't have a problem.
I did something. I did a new thing.
A new thing which you're mechuyev to. It's now, right now, as tzara, not tomorrow. Right now, as tzara.
Let's say in the middle of the davening, I want to add something. Yes, I don't know. Get me a new car in that tefillah.
That's not something you're mechuyev right now. When be'ez tzara, you're mechuyev right now to say this. You're mechuyev. And since you didn't take anything away from the Shmoneh Esrei, because you are okay without saying morid atal, you're also yoytze. So all you have is a tefillah derabbanan, included with tefillah deoraisa, 2 for the price of 1.
Let's say a different situation where I know what I'm supposed to be saying, but there's an alarm now, and the missile is coming. So what I need to stop my davening and to daven to Hashem. Please save me for the rocket.
If you have the right kavana in the Shmoneh Esrei, it also works. You don't have to say those words. But you mechuyev to be thinking about es tzara and to daven. Whatever you want, you can say. But lemaisa that he did insert it in a time of the summer where he's not mechuyev to say morid atal, so there's no reason to disqualify his tefillah. It's not a hefsek. A hefsek will be something which is a lie, something that's not shayach for now. Why are you throwing words into the middle of Shmoneh Esrei? He says it's very shayach and it's not a lie. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please remove this missile. In the summer he would be yoytze, in the winter he would need to repeat.
That's only a kavanah with morid hatil.
Yeah, of course the kavanah. What else you can think about with the siren?
Just a slip of tongue.
Listen, not so bad. Because we mispronounce a lot of different things. And Chazal already make a drasha. Vediglo alai ahava. Al tikri vediglo, rather, vedilugo. When we skip certain things, the Chazan says something, don't always have to yell. Depends what he said, but you don't always have to yell. Vedilugo alai ahava. Even when they skip and they say wrong things, mispronounce the Kodesh Baruch Hu, it's okay. I like when they're davening to me. One last thing. Emet Hashem bekorov. HaShulchan Aruch Larav Chelek Beis. Chelek Aleph came out 5 years ago or so. It's a unique sefer with hundreds of halachos that are unique for Talmidei Chachamim and Rabbanim stemming from their status or position. In 4 halakim of Shulchan Aruch, which tells Juvas for Rabbanim, Rosh Yeshiva, Talmidei Chachamim, Dayanim, Rebbes. And now Emet Hashem, after 5 years, Chelek Beis is in the making. It's almost it's in the last stage. So if anyone wants to be involved, Bekavod Gadol, there's still room to associate, to help this big project. It's a big sefer. It's a very big. It looks like a Shulchan Aruch and it's big and it's thick. So anybody who wants to be involved, they have the schus of Talmud Torah Derabim, Bekavod Gadol. אחינו כל בית ישראל הנשואים בצר ובשביה. העומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה, המקום ירחם עליהם ויוציאים מצר ולבכה, מאפלה לאוירו, מישיבו דגולה. אשתו בעגולו בזמן קורי ונוימר אומר.